You Booked It, Episode 9. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainers 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to be a successful entertainer. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainers. We are here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating and review. And to show our appreciation for your, fingers crossed, 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. All right, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my next guest today. It is Ruby Lewis. Are you ready for this, Ruby?
Couldn't be more ready.
Fantastic. Ruby has made headlines in New York, LA, Las Vegas, and across the country as a versatile singer, actress, and dancer. She starred as Indigo in Cirque du Soleil's premier Broadway show, Paramore, which led to features on Nightline, AOL Build, and 2 Macy's Thanksgiving Day parades. Ruby adores taking on biographical roles, having played Betty Hutton and Peggy Lee in Lights Out, Nat King Cole at the Geffen Playhouse, where she received the Ovation nomination, and Marilyn Monroe in Marilyn, the new musical at Paris Theater in Las Vegas, backed by the Marilyn Monroe estate. She was recently seen in Love Actually Live at the Wallace Annenberg in Beverly Hills and is slated to play Karen in Speed the Plow this fall at San Francisco's 42nd Street Moon. Ruby became known for the role of Daisy in the critically acclaimed production of Baz Vegas as a long-standing member of For the Record. National tours include Gypsy, Grease, Jersey Boys, and We Will Rock You. Television credits include Girl Meets World, Masters of Sex, Heart of Dixie, Desperate Housewives, Entertainment Tonight, and many others. She performs her own one-woman show, Blue Eyed Soul, across the country and is currently recording her freshman album. Ruby, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, fill in the gaps, who you are, where you're from, where you're currently calling home, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Sure. It's fun as we grow and as we build our bios, how they kind of expand, and then it's fun to go back and think about doing all those things. Man, I'm in Las Vegas now, but I was raised in Kentucky in a small town, and I started doing theater at a really young age. I took dance very seriously. I competed in dance, and it might have been because I was good at it, but I just kept doing it. And my family, they were all very supportive. So I went to college for performing arts at Western Kentucky University. The year I joined the program, it was the first year for the BFA program in performing arts and musical theater specifically. So that timed out really well. Spent my time there. And I just knew, I went into college undeclared because it felt it didn't feel like the right decision, the responsible decision, we will say,
Yeah.
to get a degree in performing arts. But after I started having fun, and I just didn't give a crap. So anyway, I've got my BFA in performing arts, and then I've really just been kind of doing it ever since. I call it my touring 20s. I did 4 tours, and I ended up in Los Angeles for a time. Those were really formative years because I joined For the Record company, and I started honing in on my vocal performance as more of a cabaret or recording style artist. Met some artists through For the Record that were so inspiring to me, and it's just been it's been stepping stones the whole way, and a lot of what I've done has attributed to the people who I've met along the way. And, I'm still doing it. I still find it to be incredibly important to be on the stage or to escape into other worlds. It's like part of my spiritual makeup at this point.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, my family are still supportive, and my hometown of Shelbyville, Kentucky are so supportive. And in a way, I feel like I have to keep going for them. So it's been a really wonderful, wild ride.
That's fantastic. And
Yep.
I can relate as far as going to university first off, because I ultimately ended up graduating from the Boston Conservatory. But when I first started, I went to school at the University of Montana in Missoula, where I'm from.
Mhm.
But when I started, I went in thinking I was going to be doing pre-med and
Wow.
music. I quickly learned that you actually can't do both of them at the same time. But the music and the arts were a newer thing in my life at the time, and I was just drawn to it, and that's what I ended up doing, and I'm so thankful that I did.
Wow. I had no idea. Yeah, two very different avenues, I would say.
Yes, very much so.
I was looking into broadcast journalism, which is not, it's narrowly, it's still, you're still speaking for people and you're still in the spotlight, so to speak. So not quite as much of a departure, but
Yeah, great. Well, let's
yeah.
move on to the next section here. I am admittedly a sucker for a good quote. So, what is your favorite quote that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I had to go through a list, and it's funny enough, back in the day when I was in college and Facebook was brand new, part of building your profile was coming up with different quotes that you like. So I actually had to go back in the archives and
Yeah, I
refer
remember that.
to my early 20s self. Was I even early 20s? I don't even know. Maybe even still a teenager. And I took a great deal of time compiling these quotes, but I still have one that resonates with me. And then I'm like, oh man, I need that every day. And it's a John Lennon quote. And he says, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And for me, especially now, um, being joyous in the present moment is a daily. I mean, it is I have to work on it every day. And I think that that quote really sums it up. It's like the richness of life is not in the busyness; it's in the stillness. And I've really enjoyed making that application, especially nowadays. I'm not busy, and I can't beat myself up for that.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we definitely find ourselves in a very unique situation now amongst all of this coronavirus pandemic. But I think, yeah, I am right with you. I agree that it is so difficult, really, to always stay present, stay in the moment, and that really is that's where the richness of life is. But there's definitely that duality where we have projects that exist in the future, and we have to always be looking towards what's next and the next project. But we have to, I guess, remind ourselves to know that that's just part of it, that really the fun of it is in the moment and
Mhm.
creating and getting to that end result.
Well, unfortunately, I think I programmed my young brain to believe that the richness of life comes in the award ceremonies, or, the table reads, or there are all these things that I would consider big, big life, full of life moments.
Yeah, the
And
standing ovation moments.
the standing ovation moments, exactly. And now I'm trying to, take a hike in Mount Charleston and see something blooming, and taking the second to look at it and appreciate it, and feeling that joy that you would feel in a standing ovation in that moment as well. It's really difficult, but otherwise, when you're without those moments, man, you can really get to a dark place. You can feel really empty.
Absolutely, I agree.
Mhm.
Well, let's move on to the next section.
Mhm.
So, Ruby, you're an entertainer, of course. I'm an entertainer, and I think you'd agree that the entertainment industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries that either of us know of. And you know as well as I that in order to create and to have a successful career in this industry, like you're having now, it takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, of course, yes, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being an entertainer, there is also your fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures that we're all inevitably going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So
Mhm.
tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Mhm. I have to say the rejection, like umbrella rejection, was my biggest challenge for a
Yeah.
long time because I am my own worst enemy. And I would allow myself to be so affected by what I considered rejection that it would have this trickle down effect. And negative thoughts would just flood in and it would infiltrate the rest of my life, my relationships, and even my ability to prepare for the next role or prepare for the next, undertaking. And God, I would get myself so worked up. I'd cry and cry and cry and cry. I'd have to, I'd cry until I threw up, sort of thing.
Wow.
Now I'm thinking, for instance, I was really excited about this show Allegiance that was coming to Broadway. I had auditioned in LA. They flew me to New York for the callback. So I thought, wow, that's a coup. If they're going to pay
Yeah,
for me to be there,
absolutely.
they must really want me there. I thought I had it in the bag. And I was, I was walking like the cock of the walk. And um, it didn't go well. I had a weird tickle in my throat. Sometimes when you fly across the country, it can really mess with you. Um, it's inevitable. You can catch a little cold or whatever.
Hmm.
Jet lag can be a pain in the butt. Anyway, and I did. I left as soon as I stepped out of the audition room. I started welling up, and I'm like, trying to hold it in until I reached the sidewalk, reached the pavement on 8th Avenue. As soon as I hit the pavement, just waterworks, just gushing. I mean, I couldn't. It was. I was so devastated, and I was young, and now I'm realizing, coping with that sort of thing in a healthy way is so important. Sometimes you don't realize what that means or takes until you hit rock bottom, kind of like most things. Um, and I feel like now I've overcome that challenge. Now I realize rejection is part of the game. If it's not meant for me, it's just not meant for me.
Yeah.
And if I have bronchitis and I can't do my best, it wasn't meant for me, and getting all worked up like that isn't helping anyone. So, yeah, that took me probably 10 years to get over that just extreme devastation every single time I didn't get the part.
Yeah. And I guess what I'm hearing, would you agree that it's not really one thing that you've had to do or adjust to learn how to deal with those upsets and the failures, but rather it's just the maturity of it and
Yes.
experiencing it. And then that is what helps you develop that ability to maybe see the bigger picture or to really come to terms with, you know what, this is just not meant for me this time.
Yes, and I think growing up in this educational system where it was all pretty merit based, I really, I had to have straight A's. I had to get positive comments on all my work, and that definitely bled into this career as well. Um, Getting these, being named the valedictorian would be getting the part, sort of thing.
Yeah,
And I realize now that's just not a healthy way to learn. It's not a healthy way to it's not a reason. You do the work because you enjoy doing the work, not because someone's going to tell you you did a good job. But
absolutely.
you get trained to really believe that.
For sure. And but you know what I'm hearing also, what everything you're saying is also going back to what you said in the very beginning of the interview when you're saying, I'm just going out and trying to live in the present. Back to that quote that you said. So it's I think everything is really soaked in and is full circle for you.
And finding the joy in just being in the game, or finding the joy in just sharing your gift. It doesn't always have to be always. I mean, obviously you want to make money doing this and you don't want to always be struggling and always be wondering if you made the right decision, but it does help, and it's funny how things start really flowing and coming your way when you're doing it out of pure joy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
All right, well, let's move on to the next section now.
Mhm.
To a time when I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about
Huh.
that.
It sounds modest, but I think when I was in New York doing Paramore, when we finally had an audience, we opened. I hadn't, for some reason, because the process was so involved, and we rehearsed for much longer than you normally rehearse for any show, because all of the elements in a Cirque du Soleil show require a lot more rehearsal.
Of course.
I hadn't really thought about once we opened. I was just trying to make it through opening. I was so tired, and we had done the cast album, and but then we opened, and then I had completely forgotten about the stage door. So the first stage door kind of moment, when there were a lot of kids out there, and I remember just I had goosebumps all over my body, and it was like I knew, this is why you're doing this. You're doing this for the future generation. You're doing this to inspire. And just signing the playbills and everything. Oh my gosh, I was on cloud nine. I thought I could do this for the rest of my life. Um, Even on a small scale, it doesn't have to be Broadway, as long as, I know that kids are watching, and that kids know you can put your mind to something, and you can do it.
Absolutely. Man, you gave me goosebumps on that story. That was great. I loved it.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, well, let's piggyback on that
Hmm.
and tell us about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the audition, the callbacks, if that was part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
Sure. And thinking about that, I think it's funny because as we progress through the industry, we get a bit desensitized. And I think even when I booked Paramore, I kind of thought I was going to book it, but my reaction was, compared to booking my very first tour, that it doesn't even compare. I think when I was a senior in college, I went to SETC, the Southeastern Theater Conference. Big kind of cattle call where you're looking for summer stock work, but there are a number of touring companies that are there. And I had been seen by Phoenix Entertainment for Gypsy, and they wanted me to fly to New York City for the callbacks. And this was a major first for me.
Yeah.
And so my senior year of college, it was going to be over my 21st birthday as well. And I had my mom and my sister go with me. I was terrified. I had no idea what to expect. It was the old Chelsea Studios. I was freaking out. But then I got the call that I got the part. And I remember I was in this little local Mexican restaurant in Bowling Green, Kentucky, with a couple of my friends. I got the call, and I think I ran around the restaurant. I cried. We ordered a pitcher of margaritas. I mean, it was like, um, it was the most massive moment, because I I was convinced that I could do it. I could book it. I can do this. It didn't matter. I didn't know the difference between equity and non-equity. It was a non-equity bus and truck tour. I didn't know the difference. All I knew is that I was going to be traveling the country,
Being paid to perform.
being paid to perform as Dainty June in Gypsy, which had just come off Broadway with Bernadette Peters. I thought, oh my gosh, it was the first tour after that Broadway show. I was so as close to Broadway as I had ever been, and I haven't felt that ecstatic over a role since. I'm sure I will, but it was like my hard work was paying off, and I was going to be a player in the game. It was so exciting.
Yeah, what a payoff to see all. I mean, it takes years. It takes years of dedication and time and giving things up to do this career, at that level, and to see it
Yeah.
all come together for the first time. You're like, yes, the validation of that.
The
Wow.
fact that we were going to be rehearsing in New York City the following October. New York City was always to me like Oz. It was just kind of this distant, beautiful, shimmery thing
Hmm.
that I wasn't sure if I would even make it. So the fact that I was going to be there and be rehearsing there, I could not believe it. My dreams were unfolding.
I love that.
Hmm.
Well, let's take a moment now to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And although we're being, in the middle of this global pandemic, how do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Yeah, it's been crazy that everything's been put on hold, and all of the projects I had lined up this year have been postponed, and there's not really a timeline, and um, it definitely drove me to create some of my own content. So I kind of took to YouTube and tried to figure out what it felt like to produce my own stuff, and what do I even have to say. Um, that was really great and eye-opening, and I think that I could play the game if I needed to. I still prefer live theater, though. I still prefer to have the audience right there.
Yeah.
But the projects, they are going to happen. I was in rehearsals for my first straight play as a professional actress. I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be such an amazing undertaking and so validating. Doing a David Mamet play in San Francisco, and oh my gosh, I've never worked so hard. Mamet is just a crazy undertaking, especially if you haven't really trained in Mamet.
Right.
So luckily I had an amazing director and co-stars, and we were really, oh man, we were in the thick of it when everything shut down. So that supposedly is happening, and I cannot wait, because just uh, putting myself in the position to where, it was really out of my comfort zone, for one. But also I was excited because Madonna, she originated the role of Karen on Broadway in Speed the Plow, and I just felt like I couldn't believe it. I was going to be doing this role that Madonna had played on Broadway. But so that's going to happen, and I'm staying sharp on the material, because Act Two was all me. It was the longest bit of dialogue I have ever imagined taking on.
Wow.
So I'm staying sharp there. And then the Lights Out Nat King Cole show that we did last year at the Geffen, we were due to workshop again in New York City, as it's gaining legs, and we're looking to bring it to the city either in an off-Broadway arena, or um, a city center arena or something like that. That's still definitely going to happen at some point, which is great. And I think very timely right now. We need it. We need this piece of work. I mean, this Lights Out was also life-changing for me, because it dealt with racism in such a way that singing and dancing and jazz hands and kicking is all fine and dandy, but actually taking on um, something like racism within a piece of art, particularly musical theater, is so wonderful. I mean, I've never felt like I was doing something that mattered more. So I'm hoping that has legs. And then the Tegan Summer and Greg Neighbors, who I worked with on Maryland, have a new project with Steve Aoki, and I can't delve too much into it, but it is happening, and that's been awesome because they're writing it now, and I get to be part of the process. And
Very cool.
that to me is just, it's so great to collaborate and to feel like you're in it, and that you're inspiring them, they're inspiring you. It's just this wonderful thing. So it's, the future is bright. And aside from all that, I'm just working on my house.
Very good.
That's it.
Yeah, I think Home Depot's really enjoyed a boost in business over the past
Oh
couple
my
months.
God. I'm there almost every day, Dane. I can't believe I'll get the wrong size drill bit, or I'll get I'm not cut out for this. It's definitely a major learning curve.
Absolutely. I find buying homewares is kind of like shopping for spices when you're cooking. You go buy $40 worth of spices, but you only need like 50 cents worth of spices.
Yes. That's true. And man, that'd be an idea, wouldn't it? Like, oh, I only need two of these little screws.
Yeah,
So
not the whole box.
bulk buying homewares, that'd be great.
There we go. All right, well, let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning round.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
I am ready.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Fear, and this embedded notion that sensibility meant playing it safe.
Right. And second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
My grandmother said, she looked me in the eye. I'll never forget. She bent down and looked me in the eye when I was concerned that I wasn't going to win Petite Miss Dance of America because I couldn't do 62 fouettes in a row barefoot.
Jeez.
She said, I just was doing a sweet little tap dance. She said, just go out there and do your best. And something about that, the way she looked at me and the way she said it. Yeah.
Do
I've
your
been,
best.
yeah, just go out there and do your best.
Yeah, there's so much to be
Yeah.
said in so few words.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, third question. What is something that is working for you now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
I have to say, just harnessing and garnering relationships. That's been that's been booking me more than anything.
I could not agree more.
Hmm.
All right. Fourth question. What is the best resource, whether that's a book, a movie, a YouTube video, podcast, technology, hardware, software that you have found that is helping your career right now?
While it's daunting, social media I think has been good for me to as an observer. I think I'm finding my research through my peers, and I try my best to support all my fellow artists in all of their personal endeavors. And I'm always inspired and ignited by their imaginations and their bravery. And particularly now, I have this my friend Daniel J. Watts. We did Lights Out and Nat King Cole together. He is brilliant, and he's been so successful stage and screen, especially the past couple of years. But he has found this platform. He's so brave and a true artist, and he's using his platform to educate people, to inspire people. And I think just following my peers and growing up and learning among my peers has been the best resource for me.
Fantastic. I love that.
Hmm.
All right. Fifth question. This is one of my favorites. If you had to start your career from scratch, but still had all the knowledge and the experience that you've collected from your career in the entertainment industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently? The same?
I would be more driven to join groups and to create my own art within those groups and with those people rather than what I did, which was sitting around waiting for the audition and then sitting around and waiting for the phone to ring and not filling the void in between with my own stuff. I really regret that. I really regret just I would take dance classes here and there, but I spent a lot of time just kind of comparing myself to other people's work rather than just getting in there and, you
Doing your
know,
own?
doing my own.
Mm.
Yeah. I really wish I had.
Yeah, I think I am almost right. I would say I'm right there with you that it's it's easy to get into sometimes just the business side of things where you want to just you need to get to the next gig to support yourself because once you make that decision to make this career, I mean, or what does the entertainment industry a career, there's that switch in your head a little bit where this is how I make my living. I'm not just doing this because it's fun anymore. There's other
Mhm.
elements to it, and that it's easy to get away from why we do this in the first place, and that it really is about the fact that we're artists and we create and we have like this burning need to create something all the time, whatever that is.
Right.
And it's easy to get stuck on the show or the gig or whatever, and we really have the opportunity to fulfill ourselves artistically if we choose.
Mhm. And you owe it to yourself early on to set yourself up with something that will help to fill the voids because even, Jennifer Aniston might have some times when she's feeling like she's not working, she's not doing the work that fulfills her, or she's not, her numbers are down. I don't know. At
Yeah.
any level, this career is going to have ups and downs. It's going to have periods of time in which you feel like you're not doing enough, or you're bored, or you're not being seen for who you are, whatever. So yeah, I think it's really important to set a foundation and to have something going on that you can also sink your teeth into that's not a new musical or a new whatever. And yeah, I think that's a kind thing to do for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, the last question here. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you have learned from your successful career in the industry that you would like to leave with our listeners?
I guess I would say that we all have this capacity within us to do anything we want. I mean, to me, that's God. It's like we have these beautiful bodies and these beautiful minds, and thankfully, this world where we have the freedom to do what we want, right? Now in this country that we live in this world that we live in. Um, but sometimes it's a lot harder than you want it to be.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's painful. It takes blood, sweat, tears. It takes perseverance. It takes persistence. Sometimes it takes 40 years. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know how long it's going to take for you to feel like I'm a player in this game. Sometimes it takes luck, but I don't think any of it's ever going to happen. I don't think you're going to fulfill anything you wish to fulfill if you don't really spend time with yourself, getting to really know yourself and getting to really love yourself. And that also takes patience and quiet, and it takes also not kind of jumping on the bandwagon, and oh, Kristen Chenoweth did this, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to sing everything like her, and I'm going to, that doesn't work, because that's for Kristen Chenoweth. That's not for you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
even in a lot of college university experiences, I think it's like this mimicry, or this, well, this is how it's always been done, so this is how you should do it. I don't agree with that anymore. I think we all have our own, we carve our own paths. And
Absolutely.
if you're willing to, have sweat on your brow and you're willing to dig in there, it'll happen.
Yeah, and we have so many mediums now to connect
Yeah.
with people. We're not limited to Broadway or tours or LA.
Yeah.
You can become a star through your phone,
Yeah. And as a creative person, it's also important to look inside yourself and realize what other gifts you have, rather than, other than, oh, I can sing. I think that I'm pretty good at graphic design. Somehow I started kind of doing that in college, and I'm pretty good at it. And I've figured out a way to apply that to this career. And, just,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really interesting, and it's daunting at the same time, because there are only 24 hours in the day. But that's why you got to be patient with yourself. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Cool. Well, yeah, I guess as the year goes on, I always post on my Instagram about stuff that's going on. So if you follow me at RubyLouLA, that's how you kind of stay in touch. Also, I'm really trying to get some subscribers on my YouTube channel. I think I shot 16 episodes of my COVID week whatever is what I ended up calling it. So if you head over to youtube.com/therubylou, you can catch up on all the episodes. It's a short form variety show with just me, and I man the camera, and I wrote all of the material, and it's silly, but I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah.
So hopefully once I get some things done around the house, I'm going to pick it back up again, and start, because it was just so validating to, the night before I'd write the whole thing, the day I'd shoot it, I'd edit it, and it would release it all in 24 hours. I would
Oh, wow.
release these day after day. So it was great. It was a great undertaking. I got tired, but
I can imagine.
yeah, but it'd be great if people would watch and comment and subscribe.
Fantastic. Well, Ruby, thank you so much for joining us today and agreeing to this interview. It's been fantastic having you.
Thank you for thinking of me, Dane. It was really nice to share my story.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.